What did you say? Flagpole.
Take your stinking paw off me, you damn dirty ape!
No! You're a wizard, Harry.
In spite of everything you've done for them, eventually they will hate you.
And I care! What is the deal?
No, do me a favor, Captain. Go fuck yourself.
Language.
Why so serious?
What's your favorite scary movie?
I'm Vengeance.
Avengers!
Assemble.
Welcome back to That's So Random, the most random podcast on the internet, and I'm Braden. With me today is not Andrew because he's a slacker and didn't decide to show up to work. With me is Darren McClemens from the Pipeline podcast. How are you doing, man?
I killed Andrew. Andrew is dead, and I am the new co-host of the show. What's up?
Well, that's breaking news. You must have did that pretty recently because I texted him or he texted me, I should say, like an hour and a half ago. So.
Well, I mean, I took his phone, so that might explain what happened.
I see. So you took his phone in the past.
Took his phone. Oh, or is it the future?
Is it the days of future past?
It could be.
Yeah, we're talking about X-Men Days of Future Past today. We're back with our X-Men rewatch. We're trying to get all of them knocked out before Deadpool and Wolverine. We're kind of on a tight window here now because that movie is under 2 months away now.
It's really funny because when we first started this, we're like, oh, we're totally going to have plenty of time. Like we got 6 months, and now it's like, oh wait, it's less than 2 months away. We might have to hurry up.
We still got. After this one, Days of Future Past, we still got 3 more actual X-Men movies, both the Deadpool movies and Logan to talk about. So we still got 6 movies in this franchise that we need to talk about.
Yeah, we got quite a few. But this, I mean, this one's one of the best. I think. I think very few peak the level of this one.
I'd agree. I think as far as just the movies with X-Men and the title go, I think the last one we talked about is the best, First Class, but I think this is right up there with it. I wouldn't really disagree with anyone that says it is the best.
Yeah.
It's a really good movie.
It's a really good movie. So this was one of the first ones that I watched, weirdly enough. I remember, quick backstory, I think I talked about it when we talked about, Last Stand. Last Stand was the first one I ever watched. What a horrible one to start with, by the way.
Yeah.
And this one kind of coming into that one was very weird as well, because it's everyone just dies in this universe. This universe is the most dark and gloomy, because you go from that one with Logan killing Jean and Scott to this one where the entire world being destroyed and them having to go back and fix it. It was a weird impression upon this universe watching it that way. But I don't know about you, but when this came out, there was such a hype in the air. It felt what Endgame was obviously the most hyped a comic book movie has ever been. But I remember at the time, all of my friends and stuff, they're like, "Oh, this is really hype. This is a really cool event that we're jumping into."
Yeah, I think. So first of all, this movie just turned 10 years old, which is pretty cool.
It did.
I'm an anniversary guy. You know that about me. I love anniversaries, movie anniversaries. And 10 years, quite a milestone. But I'm glad we got around to it just now when we did, because just timeline-wise, it syncs up perfectly. But yeah, I think Days of Future Past is one of those X-Men storylines that kind of transcends the genre. Even people that are not just comic fans or anything, or just superhero fans, kind of know of the storyline if they're old enough and have seen it at least in passing if they haven't seen X-Men the animated series obviously adapted it. This adapts it. Even if they haven't seen that, they probably heard of Days of Future Past.
Sure.
It's kind of with Superman, it's Death of Superman. Everyone knows that story. With Batman, it's The Dark Knight Returns. Everyone knows that story.
Yeah.
It's almost the quintessential X-Men story.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
And I think it fits the X-Men very well, a universe where, because I think the original X-Men show is so funny, because it's every season there's a version of Days of Future Past where they keep going back and changing things, and it's oh, we just made it worse, and we just do that once a season, just trying to fix things. And I think with the X-Men, they're always on the brink. I feel the X-Men are always on the brink of a darker future, especially for the future of the X-Men. So it's always very fun to see all right, how bad did it get this time? What do we have to fix now?
Yeah. X-Men in the animated series was really weird in that way because they just kept coming back to the storyline, and it was interesting because it was a different perspective every time. Like the first time, I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure it's Bishop, which they do tease in this movie, which I appreciate. Like it
yeah,
shows Kitty Pryde like taking Bishop back, and she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna send Bishop back," and then Charles is like, "No, I need to go back," and he's like, "Well, your
yeah,
body's gonna like destroy itself when you go back," and Wolverine's like, "Yo, what if your body can heal itself as fast as it's destroyed?" So that's what
yeah,
ultimately they make everything make a lot of sense. Like all the
yeah.
prelude they give you and all the exposition. I feel it's necessary, especially if you are not aware of this storyline whatsoever. Like this would be so confusing if they didn't like set everything up at the beginning before they actually sent Logan back. Because
Yeah.
it gives you all the logistics of the film too. So it sets its rules in place, and I don't really think there's a point in the movie where it breaks its own rules, which I feel that's the necessary thing for a movie when it comes to time travel. Like, you make your own rules, you
Mhm.
stick to those rules, and I can go with it. Like, as
Yeah.
long as you don't do anything to convolute own rules you have set for yourself, I'll go with it. Because time travel, obviously, we don't know the logistics in the real world because it's not an actual thing that exists. That we know of, anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I will say, like, and I don't know how much I've talked about this in our past, like, X-Men videos and stuff like that, but, like, there's definitely a thing to be said where, like, oh, all of these movies are just like Wolverine movies, and that's a valid criticism. But I actually think this one, while yes, it is a Wolverine movie, like, he's still the main character in this one, I think this one does just legitimately make a lot of sense why he is the one. Like, not only, yes, it makes sense because his brain, it can fix itself as it's breaking, but also he's one of the few characters that's going to actually be there and be at like peak strength. Like there's not going to be much of a difference between past Logan and present Logan, and just being able to send him back to this timeline does make sense, even if this universe wasn't obsessed with like Logan being the main character, Hugh Jackman being the same character and stuff like that.
when they get the whole spill about like how Logan will go back to the past and everything he does like is going to happen concurrently with the present, but once he awakens from like the state that Kitty Pryde has sent him in, he is going to be the only one that remembers what happens. I'm like, what? This guy has already had like has so much burdens on his shoulder. What a burden. Another one just to carry. Like Logan is the only one that's going to know about this.
Yeah,
I was like, man, just
yeah,
poor guy. And like later on in the movie, when Professor X, Xavier's looking through his mind, he's like, I do not want your future. I do not want your pain, you poor, poor man. And I'm like, oh my
yeah.
lord, I feel so bad for Logan.
No, for sure. It's and you know what? I actually think that's one of the things this universe has done well is showing, even when these movies aren't good, it shows like the like longevity that Logan has gone through, and X-Men Origins. That movie sucks, but I think they do a good job at showing like the pain he's gone through and just the past. All this very treacherous man and what all he's gone through and stuff like that. And yeah, poor guy.
Yeah, and like when he sees Stryker later on in the movie and he like starts freaking out because obviously Stryker is the one that put him through the Weapon X program and caused him a lot of pain, and he even says that. Charles is like,
Yeah.
yo, what happened? I like the conversation before like Logan awakens and is weary and conscious again. He's like, you just did some bad acid, yeah?
Yeah.
But yeah, he's like, what happened to you? And he's like, oh, I just saw someone that's gonna bring me a lot of pain someday.
Yeah.
I forgot how much Stryker was actually in this movie. Because I knew
Yeah.
he was there, but I forgot that he had actual like dialogue in this movie, like a decent amount. He's not a main character or anything, but he has quite a few lines of dialogue, and I forgot that.
He does. Yeah. Yeah. What was your thoughts on like how they kind of like combined like the two, I don't want to say franchises, but like the two timelines? Because that was something like I forgot how good of a job it is at being like kind of two separate sequels at the same time in like a weird way.
I think they handled it really well, probably as well as you can do that type of thing, because
Yeah.
like just the sequence I'm talking about where Logan like sees Stryker and he's having flashbacks to like X-Men 1 and X2 where Stryker is experimenting on him, and he's like, oh, and it shows you actually Brian Cox as Stryker, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I forgot we got to see that in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I've never seen another like superhero movie or just kind of movie in general do that, where it's like, all right, we build up these set of like this cast of characters, and then we set up this cast of characters, and now they are like colliding in such a cool way. Like there's that really cool sequence when like the two Charles are having that conversation and are like, yo, this is what you have to do. Like, this is the path you have to take. And just getting like Hugh Jackman along with the cast of like the First Class cast. It's just such a, I think, an impressive thing, especially with a universe that's been so like inconsistent up until this point. So I was like impressed with what they were able to do with this cast in this movie.
I feel like this movie does a lot of impressive things, but at the same time, this is the movie that kind of starts to convolute the timeline in a way where like
sure.
nothing really makes sense after. It's like, okay, where does this movie line up in context to this movie? And it's kind of this movie to blame for all that. But
Yeah.
it does everything else so well that I can kind of forget that. It
Yeah,
wasn't
I
really
mean,
on this movie
I-
to explain like all the other movies where they line up. I think it's more so on the movies that come after this that timeline
Yeah.
is so convoluted because it's not really clear where those movies are set.
Sure. Yeah, it's one of those things where, I mean, I would have been happy if this was like the last, outside of Logan, if this was like the last X-Men movie. Like,
Oh, me too,
how the
especially
movie,
knowing which ones come after it.
especially, and how it ends. Like, I actually think, like, I don't mean to like jump at the end here, but like how the movie ends is almost like a perfect ending to the franchise. Like having Logan come full circle, seeing all of his friends and like allies come back, and like fixing the iconic X-Men timeline, if you will, is such a perfect ending. Like, yeah, you could do some of these other things, but I think, like, I don't know, this is where I personally wish, like, if I could go back in time and fix things, I'd be like, this is the last solo X-Men movie in this universe, and move on to other stuff for a while.
Yeah, I think it would have been a really good ending too, because just the ending of this movie itself, it fits so well with just the X-Men movies as a whole and as an ending to this movie alone. It's like
Yeah,
perfect.
perfect.
Because the movie
agree.
starts with like Patrick Stewart's narration and it ends with that as well. And that, I love it. It's bookended so perfectly.
Yeah, I agree. And this is Patrick Stewart's last one, right? Like, this is his last.
Other
No,
than Logan?
Logan. That's right. I forgot about Logan.
Yeah.
Forgot.
This is
Never mind then.
Ian McKellen's last one though, as Magneto.
It is for now. I mean, maybe he'll be back too. I don't know.
Well, I guess we'll see. But yeah, so the
How-
whole like premise of this movie, I guess we talked about Wolverine going back, but the reason he must go back is to
Yeah.
stop Mystique from killing Trask because
Yeah.
that's ultimately going to make them the enemy. But also, like, he needs to prevent Mystique's DNA from getting to Trask because that's ultimately how
Yeah.
he develops the Sentinels, which are going to destroy all of mutant kind.
Yeah. Okay.
What did-
So
Yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. Go ahead.
No,
No,
you're
no.
good.
I was just gonna say, like, they really do a lot with Mystique in these set of movies. Like, I feel like Mystique is usually never such a massive role, and I'm not completely against it because I do think she's such a fun character. But like in these set of movies, she does almost become like the main character, like in First Class and this, and then beyond in these the like next two X-Men movies that we ultimately get. Like, there is such a strong focus on her that I can kind of understand why, like, I actually like Jennifer Lawrence in this role. Like, I actually think she does a good job, but like, I understand why people hate her so much because she takes up a lot of time, I will say.
I think these movies, mainly First Class and Days of Future Past, are what made me love Mystique so much as a character, though. Like, I
Yeah.
think these movies are the reason she's one of my favorite X-Men characters.
I think because there's been like a lot of talk over like on Twitter stuff the last couple of days, like which Mystique is better, like the one from the trilogy or this one, and like it's tough because like I think like Mystique as like a comic book character, I might say like the trilogy, but like I don't know, Jennifer, and maybe just because I like Jennifer Lawrence as an actress, like maybe that's it. Because she does play more like Jennifer Lawrence than she does Mystique, but I don't know. There's so much more heart to this one than I think the other one had.
Yeah, I think in this set of films, Jennifer Lawrence's take on Mystique, she just gets a lot more to do, so it's hard to say that
Yeah.
she isn't the better one. But I mean, in the general grand scheme of things, they're technically the same character. There's the same Mystique.
Technically,
So
yeah.
So,
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
I know like most people prefer the original, like which is like kind of like shocking to me. Like most people hate Jennifer Lawrence as this character, and I didn't even realize how much until this week, where like my whole timeline was like, yeah, fuck Jennifer Lawrence's version of the character. I was like, I don't know, I kind of like her. I don't know. I think
that just
she's
sounds like
kinda charming.
Yeah, that just sounds like a slide against Jennifer Lawrence and not the actual character and how she's written in these films, though.
I don't know. It's weird. I don't know. Like because
she very much feels like not a background character in the original trilogy, but she very much feels like just Magneto's right hand. And in these,
Yeah.
she very much feels like her own person, even though she does side with Magneto and she leaves Charles and all that. But I don't know. It feels like she evolves more into her own in the set of movies.
Yeah. And who knows? Maybe that's people's problem. Like maybe it's a thing of like because like Mystique typically isn't like a main character within the X-Men comics and stuff. I think like typically she is more of like a background character, which is understandable. And I will say when we do the new set of movies, I do hope she does play more of a background than she has here. But I don't know. I think especially in these last two, I've enjoyed her a lot, and I think I think she works here better than I think a lot of the other X-Men characters in this universe.
Now, when they do ultimately get to like the next set of X-Men movies after Deadpool and Wolverine, the character I really want to see is Mr. Sinister because we've never gotten him in live action, and I do not know how. We've had how many of these movies, and we've never gotten Mr. Sinister. I think he's such an interesting, weird, and cool character. From
my understanding, they were going to, but you know the merger happened, and I think that was the one that got off the chopping block or whatever. But no, I agree with you. I think Mr. Sinister should be the first villain in like Disney, the MCU's X-Men movies. Like I think he'd be the perfect first villain to introduce.
Yeah, because like Magneto is still going to be there. Obviously, Magneto is very much like Lex Luthor is to Superman. Magneto is that to the X-Men, and he's like always needs to be there in an antagonist type role, but he doesn't always need to be the main villain.
I agree.
So yeah, I would love Mr. Sinister because it gives us something new with this franchise, which kind of crazy that we still have so much we haven't seen when there's been like 14 movies.
And that is true. And also like the stuff we did see wasn't done well. So it's like I want to see it done again because I want to see like proper versions of all these things. Like, okay, can I get into not my issue with this movie, but kind of a it's not with this movie, but I guess the franchise as a whole, because like I love this movie, but there's some things where I do think it would have hit harder, and again, it's not this movie's fault, it's the franchise's fault, but I think would hit harder if we got more in the past films. Like there's scenes where Logan's like, I need to get, I what happened to Scott and Jean and like my team, and there's a lot of like reminiscing on the past in this movie, and I actually think they do.
They reference, so at the end of First Class, we see the Brotherhood like come together, Magneto and Emma Frost and all of them, and they straight up say in this movie, there's a line of dialogue where Magneto's like, yeah, they all died, and I'm like, I want to see the movie between First Class and Days of Future Past where that happened, because it feels like that's what Matthew Vaughn was like setting up, but then Singer just came in and was like, yeah, screw that, they're dead. I'm gonna do Days of Future Past, and I'm like, what? I want to see what happened between that.
Yeah, no, and this is something we talked about in like when we're talking about Last Stand. Like, there's that moment where like Jean's like, Logan's like, I missed Jean, and I was at PTSD. But like, we didn't see them bond. Like, we didn't see Logan as an actual X-Men. We didn't see Scott as like a member of the team. Like, I feel like if that original trilogy did a better job of being like, we're the X-Men, we're an actual team, we're a family, we're, a comrade. Like, that's kind of what I want from the MCU movies. I think this movie would be even better because we would feel the weight of what everyone has lost. I think it's a really good movie. I actually think it's even better knowing what they did with less. Like, they didn't have the help from the past movies to boost this up, and I still think it's good. But I think it could have been even cooler if we as an audience feel what they have lost. Because I don't hear. Like, outside of Logan, I don't really care if most of these characters die here because we don't have like that connection with them, which is kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, other than like Logan, Charles, and Eric, those are definitely the three like main characters aside from Mystique, because Mystique is very much like the most important part in terms of the plot. Yeah. But those four characters outside of that, you don't get much with any of them.
Yeah.
Well, you get some Beast, but he's just always kind of there. His character never really gets fleshed out.
Sure. Yeah, and like you have, like at the end of the movie, like you have all the characters kind of like sacrificing themselves and dying. Like you have like your Colossus and your Kitty and your Bobby, and it's like, this is cool, but I don't give a shit if any of these characters die. Like
because we got some of them in the trilogy. Like we saw some of Bobby in X2, and we got some of Kitty Pryde in The Last Stand, but like we didn't really get enough for that to hit as hard as they probably wanted it to. Like even when Storm dies, I'm like, okay, I don't care.
Different actress, yeah. Yeah, and again, that's really my only criticism. And again, it's not on the movie. It's not their fault. Like, they physically did, I think, everything they could have done to make this movie what it can be. This is just on the backs of like a universe as a whole. And I actually think, I know that the MCU gets a lot of flack now, but I think the MCU does a really good job at like building the characters and making you love them. Like Endgame comes around and you're like, you're terrified. You're like, you don't want them to die. Like you're afraid of all the characters that could die and how much like during the portal scene, you're like, oh, I love him and her and her and him. Like I think they do a great job with their characters. But yeah, I don't know.
What did you think of the cure, like when Charles took it? What did you think about it mutating his DNA in such a way that like he loses his powers but he's able to walk again? I don't think they explained it enough for it to make sense to me, because I'm like, okay, how does that cause him to not be paralyzed though? Like I get that it mutates his genes, but how does that prevent you from being paralyzed?
That's a good point. I didn't really think about that much, but yeah, it was a MacGuffin, like, for sure. I don't know. Because like when we start the movie and he's walking around, I'm like, wait, does this take place before the last one? I was like, no, it can't. Like I was very confused at first.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't, because when like Logan approaches them and Charles is like, oh, I think I do remember you, so I'm gonna tell you what you told us then. Fuck off.
Yeah, it had to be. Yeah, no, for sure. It had to be after. It's whatever. Like I think I really like the scene where like Charles has to choose between his powers and his legs. Like I think that's a brilliant sequence. So I guess it works, and I think this is like there is like a deciding, and I actually think this is hot take to say this is my favorite movie with Charles, as far as like him as a character. Like, I love the trilogy with him, but I think just as from like him as a strong character and the choices he has to make in this movie, I think he's really good. So I guess I'm okay with it. Like even if it doesn't make complete sense why he can walk, like I feel like that's a little unrealistic at times, but I didn't mind it too much.
Yeah, it was fine, I guess. I guess it gave him more of a reason to take the cure than it just dulls his powers. Like, oh, his legs work again. So, I mean, I guess he'd be more inept to actually keep taking the cure, because he's like, oh, this gives me more than just losing my powers. It gives me my legs back.
Yeah.
Like, I feel whole. Well, not whole, because he obviously still lost a lot in First Class, but
Sure.
at least gives him something to live for, I guess, in his eyes.
Yeah.
And we haven't even mentioned, so Magneto is locked away for killing the president. That president, of course, being John F. Kennedy. And so once they break Magneto out, and we haven't even mentioned Quicksilver yet, but I guess we'll get to that in a moment. But once they break him out with the help of Quicksilver, they're like, oh, Eric, how could you? You killed the president. He's like, I was trying to save him. He was one of us. And I'm like, wait, they're saying JFK was a mutant? I kind of like that. Because JFK, he's one of my favorite presidents.
That's so funny. Yeah.
And,
how would you rank the presidents? I was kidding.
JFK and Abe Lincoln are my two favorites. And past that, I can't tell you.
No, I thought that was really funny. I just love the idea of like what real world people would be mutants in their world. Like that's such a funny idea. Like, freaking Ronald McDonald. I don't know. Like just like the silly scenario. What do you think his powers were? What do you think?
Persuasion, the power of persuasion.
Oh, that's how he got into office, was his powers. That's
theory. How he got America behind him, and that's what led to him being assassinated.
Mind control. It's funny. No, I thought I really enjoyed that. I mean, Magneto in this movie, I mean, did you like him? Because I did feel like his turn at the end felt a little quick, but maybe that was just me, where it's like, oh, okay, they're against each other again. All right, I guess that makes sense, because it's Magneto.
Does he really turn? I don't feel like Magneto really turns. Like he's kind of always the same. Like he's just for mutants. He does not care about the humans, especially if they're not going to help the mutants.
Yeah, that's fair.
I feel like he was probably just kind of using them to get to where he wanted to at first.
Yeah,
like I think fair. I'm sure there is, especially given Ian McKellen's death at the end, when he's like, "Oh, all those years we spent fighting, what I would do to get just a few of them back." There is, like, I know there's a side of him that wants to side with Charles, but their views on everything is just so different.
Yeah. No, there's... Oh, wait, I can't talk about that. You haven't seen it. But no, I think there's a lot of... No, I mean, I love Magneto, so I had no problem with him turning. I just felt like... I don't know, maybe it's just me. Like, maybe I just wasn't paying attention, where I was like, oh, he's a villain now. Okay, we're we're going this way, which just makes complete sense. I actually think like it was a bit heartbreaking when he's trying to go kill Raven. Like, oh my gosh, like especially seeing how close they become in like the later movies, like the trilogy and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was definitely heartbreaking, but you definitely see his point of view on things. He's like, you are the reason that they put these weapons that murder us all. I cannot have that happen.
Yeah.
One sacrifice is worth saving all these mutants, even if it is someone that I'm very close to.
I agree. Yeah, that's a very fair point. I will just say, like right ahead, I know I think you're going to go this next, but love Quicksilver. Love Evan Peters. Evan Peters? I think that's his name. Evan... Is that his name? Evan Peters? Yeah, I think that's it.
I think that's right, yeah.
Okay. I love Evan Peters' version of Quicksilver.
Yeah, I liked him a lot. When they first roll up to the house and they knock on the door and his mom answers, he's like, oh, what has he done this time? He's like, Peter, the cops are here.
It's really funny.
And they walk in, they're like, all right, kid. And he's like, he's like using his powers right in front of him. He's just acting like, what happened? What? You see powers? You see something crazy here? Nothing anyone would believe. And I'm like, I mean, the kid's got a point. And what they call him kid, he's like,
this is probably dumb.
He's like, what? I'm just not old. Or like Logan's like, I knew him when he wasn't so young. He's like, young, I'm just not old, or something like that. Or,
yeah,
you're just old.
So in this continuity, maybe this is a dumb question. So this isn't Magneto's son in this like continuity, right?
No, it is.
I'm pretty sure
it is. That's why
it is.
Yeah, he has a. Okay, so
maybe I missed it. I'm sorry.
I think he 100% is vegan. I'm pretty sure they delve more into it in Apocalypse. I've only seen Apocalypse like 1.5 times. But just if you're paying attention, like later on when Peter, when he's looking at Magneto like on the TV when he's giving the speech at the stadium, and then his mom's like looking, he doesn't know he's his father. I don't think he knows who his father is, but I think everything they show us hints that it's Magneto because it's like, oh, he controls metal. My mom used to know a guy like that.
Oh, that's what that. Okay, you know what? I'm dumb for not picking up on that, but yeah, that's a good point. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and then just his mom's reaction, like when he's on the television, I'm like, yeah, that's definitely Quicksilver's dad. And I know his name is like Eric Lyncher here, and he's got the last name of Maximoff, so isn't Maximoff Magneto's like last name in the comics? Isn't it like Magnus Maximoff?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm assuming maybe that's his mom's last name in this set of movies. That's why he has that last name, because he never knew his father.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just remember, like, because this and Age of Ultron came out, like, what, just a couple years apart, right?
Literally a year apart. Yeah, Age of Ultron was 2015.
Yeah, and I remember there being a lot of conversations about, like, oh, which Quicksilver is better? And I always said that Evans was better. And I don't know. He just has such a fun personality and a fun vibe to him. And, like, did you ever watch WandaVision when that came out?
I did not.
Okay. Do you care about spoilers from that movie or that show?
No, I know he shows up.
Oh, you know he shows up. Yeah, that to me is still the most disappointing thing the MCU has ever done. Just how they treated that entire situation. Like, absolutely terrible what they did with Evan Peters. Like, he came in and I was like, oh my gosh, that's such a great twist. And then they did nothing with it. That will always be disappointing to me.
Yeah, that's kind of silly.
Yeah, like, I mean, he's a nothing character in that show. Like, he's like Ralph Boner, and it's like you did a boner joke. You brought him back for a boner joke. Like, that's so stupid.
Very, very. I am curious because I guess they teased it in that with Quicksilver, and they teased it at the end of the Marvels, obviously, with like Beast looking in and like the split between dimensions or whatever, and he's like, oh, it's another universe. I'm wondering how they do ultimately bring the X-Men in. I mean, I guess we're gonna get that answer in Deadpool, but.
Yeah. I mean, and also what version are we talking about? Like, are we talking about, like, this version that will... Because I think Secret Wars there are going to be a lot of X-Men stuff in Secret Wars. I don't
think it can be this version, can it? Because, like... Well, because this timeline is, like... It all leads up to Logan, where all the X-Men are dead, and Logan ultimately dies. Spoilers. I mean, if you're listening to this, I'm assuming you've seen all the X-Men movies, but... yeah, like...
Maybe they're, like, following
I don't think it can be this version of the X-Men, because unless it's like a past version, but that would be kind of lame.
Well,
I just
when is Logan set? When is Logan set? Isn't it like set
it's like
in the future?
2029?
Okay, so it could be some of these versions. Like we got the again, like the end of like the Marvels, we have that version of Beast, which I think implies it's supposed to be.
How long has it been? Like, I don't know how long it was between like all the X-Men dying and Logan, because I think Logan is set in 2029. So like all the X-Men dying could have been years and years before that.
That is true. I mean, and also if they want, they can just be like, it's a multiverse version of them that is just like this version, but they don't die or whatever. Like they could go that route if they want to.
Yeah, because I feel like the Wolverine we're getting in Deadpool and Wolverine is not this Wolverine. I think it's a different one. Even though they do,
it's not. They've
yeah. Okay, good.
They've confirmed it's like they're not touching what they did with Logan. Like what they did with Logan is staying permanent, and they're grabbing
it needs
another
to
one.
because it's the perfect ending for that character. I don't think it can be done any better than they did it there.
Yeah, but also, I mean, people also say that people also say Logan is set in his own little universe. Like, there's people who don't even think it's the same universe. But who knows? I forget what we were even talking about before we got sidetracked.
Quicksilver.
That's right. Love him. I will say there was slightly disappointing to me because I thought that the house scene was this movie as well. Like I thought both were this movie. I was like, that's Apocalypse. Yeah, that's Apocalypse, right?
Yeah, the Sweet Dreams needle drop.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so good. But his that laboratory fight scene, or not even fight scene, but just like his Flashpoint racing scene thing, so cool.
Was this the first time we saw like super speed utilized in a live action movie? I think it was. At least comic book movie.
Comic movies for sure. I assume something. Did Matrix didn't do anything like this, right? I haven't seen the Matrix movies. They didn't do anything like this, right?
I haven't seen the Matrix, but I'm sure they had
they do something.
Probably something similar, but it's probably not the same thing. I mean, I've seen plenty of movies with like slowed action scenes and stuff like that, but it's not really the same thing. Where one character is like literally just moving faster than everything around it.
I would assume this is at least what made it popular in like the superhero genre. Like obviously Flash did some stuff similar to this over its years. Like you have stuff like Flash Time, The Internals. Not a huge fan of that movie, but its speedster stuff I always thought it's been really, really cool. Any other speedsters in superhero movies? I'm trying to think. Incredibles, I guess. Sonic did.
I was about to say Sonic. I guess Sonic's technically a superhero, even though he's not a comic book hero. I'm so hyped for Sonic 3. Cannot wait.
A handful of months, 6 months, so whatever.
December, man. Where's that trailer at?
Soon. I imagine soon.
It's got to be soon, dude. I saw a trailer for that new that Wicked movie, the Wizard of Oz thing, and I'm like, it's like coming this Thanksgiving, and I'm like, what? You're showing a trailer for this, but we haven't got a Sonic 3 trailer yet? Come on.
Moana comes out the same time, and we have a teaser for that as well.
Oh, what? I don't know if anything else in December has like a trailer yet.
What comes out in December?
Besides like Kraven, we got a trailer for Kraven. Like speaking of Quicksilver, Aaron Taylor Johnson played him over at the MCU, but we got a trailer for Kraven like a year and a half ago, and that movie still hasn't come out.
Yeah, I mean, Lion King comes out in December, and we got a teaser trailer for that. So
I think I'm surprised Paramount didn't release it around the time they dropped Knuckles, but I don't know. I guess they want the Sonic stuff to be spaced out more.
Yeah. Maybe. I mean, rumors in this next couple months we're getting a Captain America trailer, and that doesn't come out until like February. So we should be getting soon. I think we should get a Sonic teaser soon.
Yeah, I think it'll be very soon because Keanu got cast like 2 months ago, so I'm sure they're probably close to being finished with the voiceover if they're not yet.
I think they're done. I think I saw that.
I figured because I wouldn't think like voice work would take way too long.
I think production's done now. It's like in like the editing processes, I think.
Oh man, I'm so excited. Well, do we have anything else to say about Days of Future Past?
Anything else I want to say? I just you said that this wasn't your favorite, right? You like First Class more?
Yeah, I like First Class more. Oh, did I miss something in this movie? Because like Wolverine has the bone claws for like most of this movie, then Magneto can like magically control his body because it's metal. Like when did he get the metal skeleton exactly?
Oh yeah. He didn't get it yet, did he?
Because the Stryker stuff like implies that doesn't happen until after this movie. Because the reason he gets the antimatium skeleton is the Weapon X program, which is due to Stryker. So I'm confused how Magneto just threw him into the ocean because he didn't have the antimatium skeleton yet.
Maybe he has like a like belly button.
Oh wait,
piercing or
wait.
something.
And he like wrapped him in metal, didn't he? Like wrapped him in something metal and threw him in the ocean.
Yeah, he like wrapped it through his skin.
Yeah, that's what it was. Okay. I think I've just always misinterpreted that. And
I will say,
until I was watching closer this time around, I was like, wait, he never gets the antimatter skeleton in this movie. He has it in the present, obviously.
He's heading there, right? Like they captured him. Was like, all right, send him through.
Yeah. So also the ending of this movie, it's like perfect because Charles is like, oh, the future is never truly set, and then it's revealed that Stryker is Mystique, and I'm like, wait, what's going on now? And I feel like that's something they never follow up on.
It is Mystique. I guess she knew she had to set it in motion or whatever, or it's like, all right, he has to get his claws or none of this happens or whatever.
Yeah, I guess
I don't know.
Because like we never see Wolverine again in this timeline besides that
Logan,
one cameo. Well, we get that one cameo in Apocalypse, and it's like the Weapon X thing. He's in the Weapon X gear. He doesn't have a speaking role, but he's just like growling and stuff, and he kills a lot of people and runs away.
Oh gosh.
I'm surprised how much I remember from that movie because I have not seen it in 8 years.
I literally remember the end credit scene. Like I remember them suiting up, and I remember the Speedstar fight or like the house scene, and that's it. I
remember a decent amount. Like I remember Apocalypse recruiting all the Horsemen. I remember the Weapon X cameo with Wolverine. I remember all the Quicksilver stuff pretty much about Magneto being his father. But yeah, outside of that, I don't remember too much.
There was a sadness when that like after I finished this, I was like, all right, what's next? And I looked at like the rest of these X-Men movies.
Dude,
like,
our next few are gonna be.
I was like, oh no.
we're gonna have a stretch where we're roughing it out until we get to the Deadpool movies and Logan.
I was like, I don't know if I want to do this.
But I mean, the next 3 movies, it's just gonna be me talking to myself.
The rest of us abandoned you. Now, I'm curious because actually, at one point in time, and I don't agree anymore, even though I haven't rewatched it. Like I said, Apocalypse was my favorite due to just like I felt, and I still agree with this. I think it's the most it does like feel like an X-Men movie. Like I like how they're a team and they're working together and stuff. It's just like everything else sucks about it, if I remember correctly. Like it's not a great movie.
So I remember watching Apocalypse in the theater. I guess we'll dive more into it when we talk about it the next time. But I remember watching it in the theater and walking out like being thoroughly like entertained. Like I really enjoyed it. And then I got that trilogy on Blu-ray later that year, and I watched First Class, watched Days of Future Past. I'm like, yeah, great. I'm gonna watch Apocalypse. And I could not get through the movie. I watched like half of it and turned it off. I'm like, oh my god, that's so much worse than I remembered. So I don't know if it's just the theater like hypnotizing me, making me think it was better than it was, or I don't know.
Sure.
I guess we'll see.
We will definitely see. That'll be an interesting watch, I think.
Oh yeah. I guess we'll probably do Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix together because I don't think we'll really have enough to say about one for one episode, and we might as well just get them out of the way.
Recommend it off at once. Feel like because after that, I don't like that's the worst it gets. I think. Like I don't think after that we got like wait, what's next? Is that next, or do we got like a Deadpool movie next?
I mean, Deadpool is technically before that one, but I'm thinking about saving the Deadpools and Logan for last, since it's Deadpool and Wolverine we're leading up to.
Sure. Oh, that's smart.
And we might as well finish strong.
Heck yeah.
But yeah, well, Andrew's not here to give his ridiculous grading skill, so I'll just make up one for this movie. How many Wolverine claws would you give this movie out of 6?
Out of what? Out of 10 or
6? The 6 claws he has.
Oh, gotcha. I'd give it 5 claws, man. I very much love this movie. I will say, I don't think I said this yet. You had said that you like First Class more, and last time I was like, I like this one more, and I think now I actually might agree with you. I think I might slightly like First Class more, mainly because of how it ends. Like I love that final beat scene; it's so good.
It's crazy to me that I like First Class more because, like, I mean, I guess Magneto is my favorite X-Men character, but my favorite X-Men or X-Man is Wolverine, and this movie is very much like Wolverine's the main guy, and it's got plenty of Magneto in it. But I still prefer First Class, but that very much feels like Magneto's movie, so maybe that's why I love it so much.
I agree.
Yeah. And I agree with your rating. 5 out of 6 Wolverine claws for Days of Future Past.
Yep.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, we talked about the last great X-Men movie for a minute before we get to the Deadpool films, but
I
we'll be
mean,
back.
it is the last great X-Men movie.
Yeah, that's true.
They're-
The actual X-Men movie.
Actual X-Men, yeah.
I mean,
It sucks because-
Deadpool has the X-Men, but yeah, with the
Kind
X-Men in
of.
the title, yeah, definitely the
Yeah.
last great one we've had. And who knows when we're gonna get another movie with X-Men in the title? It could be years and years from now. Hopefully not.
Apparently, they have a writer. This last week, the MCU's found their main writer for it. Apparently, so
So they're already starting development for an X-Men movie.
Yep. there is
I did
development
not know
on the
about
MCU's
this.
X-Men. Thank
Oh.
goodness. So maybe by 2030. I don't know.
Yeah,
Dude,
I've been telling you this. I don't know if I'm like the only person. I know plenty of people want the X-Men, but I don't know if I'm the only one that kind of sees it this way. Like, I think the X-Men and a lot of the Fox properties that the MCU got are kind of Marvel's saving grace, especially if they're not going to reboot,
Yeah.
because all the characters everyone loved, they're gone or they're dead, besides like Spider-Man. Like, Tony's dead.
Mhm.
No more Iron Man. Cap's gone. I mean, I know they got it's technically we're getting Captain America 4, but Steve is Captain America. He's gone. So, like, I feel like they need the X-Men and they need Deadpool and Wolverine to be a success if they want any hope.
I agree. I mean, I think there's a lot of cool characters at their disposal at the moment. But I think X-Men are huge. Like, I think X-Men Fantastic Four will be the focus. Like, you have X-Men, you have Fantastic Four, you do have Sam Wilson, you have Doctor Strange still, you have Spider-Man. Apparently we're getting Blade, but I still don't believe that movie's coming out. We'll see. And obviously they introduce a lot of new characters within Phase 4 that I'm a huge fan of. Like, I love Miss Marvel, I love Kate Bishop, I love I guess Wanda is still around. Like, there's still a lot of great characters, but
We're getting
I would agree.
Daredevil Born Again.
Daredevil's coming back, which you need to watch.
I will watch it soon. All right. I'm getting around to watching more shows. You know, I watched Superman
Yes.
and Lois lately, which
You did.
you and Connor have been on me about that forever. And I was like, fine, I'll watch
So
the
happy
2
you watched
seasons
it.
I didn't
So
watch. Yeah, season
now
2
you
was
have a
tough
wait
at
for the rest
times,
of
but overall, I enjoyed it. Aside from the
Yeah.
main villain, I enjoyed most of it. And
Yeah.
season 3 was really good. And I started my adventures with Superman, which you've been on me about too, and I'm really enjoying that so far. I'm like 4 episodes
really?
in. Yeah.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
trying to
season
get
2
caught
just
up for
started.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to get caught up. I'm like, okay, I need to
Yeah.
get caught up. Maybe I'll talk about season 2 after it ends because I talk about DC animation a lot on this channel, so kind of been
Yeah.
slacking on the present DC animated stuff.
Some fun stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Well, is there any place that people can find you, Derek?
At the grocery store. I was kidding. No, you can find me over on my YouTube channel. I'm live over on the Pipeline every Thursday. So just search up Derek McClymans on YouTube, and you should be able to find me. Thank you so much for having me. Very much appreciate it.
Absolutely. And, you know, you can find this show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast, at YouTube, at The Red Arrow. And you can find me
Heck
talking
yeah.
about some DC stuff mostly, some other comic book stuff, some movie stuff in general, with The Red
Mhm.
Arrow on YouTube. So if you're not subscribed, click that subscribe button.
Do
But
it.
hopefully me and Andrew will be back next time talking about something, and we'll have you back on
Uh-huh.
soon to talk about X-Men Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix as well. But
I cannot wait.
yeah, until next time, that's been it. That's been That's So Random.
Bye bye.